Next on the list, Iron Man 2. Yeah, it's right after Iron Man 1 in timeline order. I don't know why my brain catches on that, but that's interesting to me. I'll start again with Robert Downey Jr. Uh, he's so consistent in the role that there's nothing really off about him. He's just kind of continuing what he's already been doing in the first one. That is one of the biggest factors that keeps this movie elevated at a good position. I know some people might not have, but uh, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is so good, so consistent, so just such a charismatic, uh, energetic character. You're watching it because you want to see him and you want to see how he interacts with everything around him. Pepper Potts. What's really great about this one is she's pretty much already been running his company. So in this movie, he just gives it to her, which I feel like is symbolic in a sense more than anything else because he's still Tony Stark. It's still his company. He just wants her to do everything else. you know, that part's funny. He just kind of dumps it all on her, and he's going through some things and all that. Uh, I mean, he is dying in this movie, so like he is trying to get all of his affairs in order and whatnot. But it's kind of funny that ultimately he's just like, hey, you're really good at this whole business thing. You should just run the company for me. I'm still Tony Stark, but but she's totally cool with it. She's like, I swear she came out of the womb as a CEO of a giant tech firm. Like, they have a relationship that works. Is my kind of my point. They have a certain love and teamwork aspect to them that it's all fine. It's just funny to me. Um, Happy talking about him again. He gets more screen time in this movie. He's not just in the background. It's more fun seeing him kind of get into the combat and get more into the banter. Seeing him up against Natasha Romanoff, uh, Scarlett Johansson for the first time as Black Widow. In that boxing ring, you really get a good sense of him and her in that, and so it's pretty good. Uh, Later on in that movie, uh, Happy and Black Widow get into a fight with some bad guys, and it's you really get to see their ability levels. Like Happy is a great fighter, right? But Black Widow is like superhero level. I guess let's go into Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff. Uh, she's a fun character uh, because at first she plays the spy role where she's undercover. She plays Natalie something or other. She's like some kind of like accountant or something uh, for Tony Stark. And as the viewer, right away. It's like immediate, so you don't get that sense of surprise. I didn't. Let me know what you all think when she comes up with that shield gear and she's sitting next to Nick Fury. You're not actually surprised. It's just kind of fun seeing how she puts her skills to the test. How she's both an amazing fighter, but she's also a fantastic infiltrator. Next person to talk about, gotta talk about Rhodey. Gotta talk about Rhodey. This time, Don Cheadle's Rhodey. He has no problem kind of sitting back and being uh, kind of in the background. I don't want to call him a sidekick necessarily. I mean, he kind of is, but Don Cheadle plays this good balance of not being in the forefront necessarily, but at the same time, he's still very strong. You feel like this Rhodey has a lot more fun with Tony Stark than the other Rhodey does. To be honest with you, I love the fight scene between him and Tony Stark when they're both wearing their Iron Man suits at that party. And that shows it off quite nicely where Rhodey, he is very like no nonsense, but it's out of concern. Like he sees that his friend Tony is spiraling down. He doesn't necessarily know why at this point, but he knows his friend is just fucking, he's fucking up a bit too much. So he calls him out on it. you know, superhero style. Whiplash. Mickey Rourke. He always plays a tough guy, like this ugly, mean, tough guy, at least nowadays. And seeing him as Whiplash, it's no exception. He plays this big, ugly, mean Russian dude very well, almost stereotypically well. Like, he looks like a guy you would not want to mess with in or out of the suit, like at all. Like if there was a fist fight between him and Tony Stark would be hamburger. Compared to Obadiah in the first movie, Obadiah is all brains and sneakiness. Whiplash, he's very intelligent, very smart. He's like a physicist as well, but he can tear your arms off. I like the physicalness of him. He's a really great. I don't care what people say. I really like his villain. He's a good, fun character. His reason for revenge is pretty, I'd say, solid for him. Meaning, like, he feels like he's been wronged by Tony Stark and his family. In truth, it's a bit of a complicated greed and politics story going on, but end of the day, he feels like he should be, the prince, of this weapons energy empire, not Tony Stark. And he really takes that on Tony in a pretty good way. It's great scenes between them. There's a scene where they're in this prison holding cell, and they're just like exchanging quips with each other. And Whiplash, he ends with his quip, and it's a really good one. And I won't ruin it if y'all haven't seen it, but it's good. It just gets Tony right here, right in the arc reactor, Then you got guy, what's his name? Justin Hammer. He plays a really good bad guy. He's got the douchebag rolled down. He plays a bit more of a dirty kind of tech mogul kind of a guy. There's a scene where he and Whiplash are at this airport hangar and they're eating this fancy dinner. And I mean, it's one thing to say about this movie is it does a really good job of framing its characters. And Justin Hammer is very well framed in this movie too. He plays a good douchebag. Nick Fury. Nick Fury now compared to where he was in Captain Marvel, you really get to see where his character is. He's totally the man behind everybody else, behind everything else. He's the super spy. And you just see how he just calls the shots on Tony Stark even. He just totally just makes things happen. He's like, no, man, like, you're staying in this house until you figure this stuff out. Or no, man, Natasha, she's staying with you. The story is interesting. It's a full-on revenge story from Whiplash to Tony. That's really where the gold is. Everything else is just glue or just details for the whole overarching MCU and these characters. You believe why Whiplash is upset, even though it may be misguided. You believe in Tony's and Pepper's growing relationship with each other. You believe in Rhodey and Tony's brotherhood with each other. You really believe that these people are close, like they've been close for years. And just seeing the different kinds of people they are, but they still manage to love each other and be there for each other and back each other up. I just really love Tony and Rhodey. I really love seeing them in that final fight scene where they're working together. It's one of the best scenes in all of the Iron Man stories. It's just so good. You've been waiting for it for like a bit since like the beginning of the first Iron Man movie. The combat, the action, it's better than the first movie because there's more superpowered bad guy stuff going on. Whiplash, again, he's a great physical opponent to Tony. Seeing his giant arc whips go around, though it seems quite impractical of a weapon, it seems heavily dangerous. It's fun to see. It's fun to watch. Yeah, overall, solid film. Is it better than the first movie? No, but it's kind of hard to beat such a jackhammer of a film. I think that's like my only big negative thought about it is, unfortunately, when you set a bar as high as you do with any kind of movie, any kind of follow-up to it, it's difficult to fit those shoes. So it tries its best, but not quite there. Still great, though. I liked it.